Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session on learning how to make Power BI dashboards in an hour. My name is Tarun Agarwal. I'm going to take you through today's session on how we can work with data in Power BI. Since this is in a webinar mode, it means that I will not be able to hear you. I will be the only one speaking. Feel free, however, even if you raise hands, unfortunately, I will not be able to get you to speak, but you can use chat. Feel free to type out your questions in chat. And as and when I can see them, I will respond. And if not, there may be someone from the admin team to help you with basic logistic responses. So I'm going to begin the session now. And what you're going to see is I'll be moving a little fast, but I do believe there's a recording that's going to be available and you can review it. Still, do not hesitate to ask questions in chat. Whatever you have in mind, just drop it in chat. All right. I have just opened my Power BI desktop and I specify here that this is the desktop, not the online Power BI service. So the Power BI desktop is free for anyone to use, and you can download this onto your system. Generally, most organizations allow it as well. If not, you can reach out to your administrator. So on the screen, it shows that I am logged in. It also shows that I have some videos that I could use, some tutorials, blogs, blah, blah, blah. Now, I have checked this, so you can always see that there's an option of getting rid of this when you start up. For now, I'm going to click on Get Data. So even if I were to close this, I could click on Get Data there, Get Data. So there are different places from where you can connect the data. Am I not audible? Can everyone confirm that I'm audible? Okay, great. Thanks. Oh, all right. So I'm just connecting to some data. This time, I'm going to connect to data, which is not in an Excel file. To begin with, I'm going to connect to an entire folder. So I click on Get Data. And if you see here, I have a set of options. I'm going to click on More. And I have Folder as an option. So I go ahead with, say, Connect to the folder. Now I need to find the folder path. What I'm going to do is my folder is here. I'm going to select this entire path and just paste it in here. I can, of course, always click on Browse and go there and find it in this manner. I just find it quicker to use it in this manner. So I have selected the folder URL, pasted it here, and I say OK. Now, what this does is connecting to a folder essentially allows me to get all of the files inside that folder. So I can connect to absolutely everything. I'm so sorry, I'm not able to share a sample with you all. I will see if that can be shared at a later point in time. Whatever I have as data, I'll try and share that across. Now, for now, you will, of course, have access to the recording. So what I'm doing is connecting to the folder, which shows me the variety of files that are inside this folder. So it shows me that there are a lot of CSV files. I can click on Combine. Very simple. I just go with Combine. So with Combine, it tells me combine and transform data, combine and load. By default, I prefer to do a combine and transform. Wherever there is data to be loaded, I avoid loading the data directly. Let me show you why. So combine and transform. Now what this does is it shows me a first file. This is the default. It takes whichever is the first file in the set and uses that. I don't do anything. I just look at this data and I say, This looks to be good. Do I skip files with errors? No, I would like to know which files have errors. So I keep this as is. All right, so I have data. This is you taking the first 200 rows. I can change it, or I can, generally, I don't touch anything here. There's no need. Power BI does a good job of it. And I wait. Give it a few moments. And well, this is a small little tick in which is Microsoft more than Power BI. The work is done, but it has moved behind this. So I just have to do an Alt tab. And now I can see sales CSV underscore CSV. I don't like the name sales CSV. I can either double click here or just click here and change. Let me just call it sales. So it has taken the folder name, but it allows me to change it and do something else. Now, for those of you who are familiar with macros in Excel, essentially what this has done is it has created an entire macro set of macros at the back to give me this data, which is fully usable. So it's showing me this data, it is completely usable. And what actually happened? It connected to the source, which you can see here. It automatically did a filter for hidden files. It automatically created a custom function. It renamed columns to say source.name, which was the name of the file. It created a removal of certain other columns, expanded the column. All of this it does automatically each time. There's nothing I need to do. All right. So there's nothing that I need to do. For those of you who've used MS Access, yes, it is similar and yet not very similar. You'll see in a little bit why. I'm so sorry. May I request those of you who are adding things in Q&A? I'm so sorry. I'm not able to read Q&A as quickly as I can read chat. So please post whatever you have in chat. Thank you. So I have connected to sales. I ignore this entire piece. Okay. I'm at this moment for today's session, I'm only interested in sales. Sales, I have an order date. I have a ship date. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a script to enrich my view. I'll show you what and how. I have a script for a date dimension. I don't need to do anything else. I copy paste this entire thing, bring it in here. I say new source, blank query. I repeat, new source, blank query. It creates a blank query, which is a blank table. And this blank query, I will name it date key. I tend to use the term date key. There are different people who use different terms for it. This is a date table that I'm creating. Having renamed this, I click on Advanced Editor. There's something inside which I delete. And I paste whatever I had copied from my script. And done. The script creates a new table. This table gives me, I do need to make a small change, advanced editor. Let me go back. I need to remember to change the from and to years. This is 2006 and this is 2008. I don't touch anything else. Done. This now will automatically create all the date values from 1st Jan 2006 to 31st December 2008. It tells me which year it is. It extracts the start of the year, the end of the year, the month, start of month, etc., etc., etc. A lot of information available to me. I can also see the quarter number. So there's a lot of data available to me right here. These are typically what we do. So let me explain what I have. So yes, I see a question of what if I have different Excels with different column names. I'll come to that right now. What is type here? Type is, so if you see here, this is a whole number, whereas this is text ABC. I can change the type for any of these. This is text and this is whole number. Wherever it detects data, so if I click on sales, I will find some of these are decimal numbers. So total product cost, unit price, order quantity is 1 to 3. Unit price is a decimal number. Mostly, Power BI does a brilliant job of identifying and setting up the types. Sometimes it's unsure, in which case you may see both ABC 1 to 3 in the same place, which means it doesn't know, it is unable to determine whether it is to be considered as text, text, date, or number. Now, when you are looking at this data, you can connect to absolutely any kind of data. I have connected to a folder. If you see here in sources, these are the supported sources at the moment. If you see, there are databases aplenty. There's a big set of databases that you can connect to. And if none of those function, then you also have an option of going into creating a blank query and writing out connecting to something else, something that is not already supported. There are a lot of online services that you can connect to and pull in data from. Okay, so there's a lot and there's more getting added all the time. Now, I have connected sales data. I've created a date key table right here. Let's have a look at what this looks like. Close and apply. Let me see if I'm able to in chat. Okay, chat does not allow me to paste in this entire script. All right, so coming back to my file, let's look at the data. This is my sales data. This is what it looks like. Okay, I have a date key table. I'm going to connect these two. So I use the model view. What I am in right now is data view. Power BI has 3 sections in it: report view, data view, and model view. Where we played around with the data earlier is called the Power Query, and that is accessible by going to Home, Transform Data. At any point in time, you can go to Home, Transform Data to access Power Query. For now, I'm going to go to Model View. In Model View, I have a date and I have here order date. I'm going to connect the order date to date. Drag, drop. This shows me 1 and this shows me star, which means for every date, there is one unique value. And in order date, that same value can be repeated. 1 is to many in this direction. What does the script do? I have a question here. What does the script do? The script itself allows me to create a lot more information for any date. If I wish to see things by fiscal year, if I wish to see data by quarter or by start of year, start of week, month, anything by week of year, I can't do this by default using Power BI has its own defaults for dates, but that's not enough. This makes it richer. Now, with this selected, I go back into data view. I'm going to select this date key, table tools, and I will say mark this as data table, date table. Mark as date table. Which is the date column? Quite simple. It's called date. I have named it date. There, validated successfully. Okay. Any calculations that are done will now use this date table dates and give me a much better richness with my reporting. Don't worry too much about it. I am not done with my data. I want to pull in some more data directly from an Excel workbook. So I'm going to pick up an Excel workbook here and let me take it from here. I have something called territory, sales CSV territory. I'm connecting to that file. It gives me two options. When I connect to an Excel file, there are tables. For those of you who you don't need to worry about the script. The script is something which you can even find online fairly easily. You can find these scripts, date scripts online and reuse them. So for those of you who are connecting to Excel files, you will find two different icons. This is a table which is formatted as a table in Excel, and this is a worksheet. Generally, tables are preferred. So I will, at this point, I don't need to worry too much. I'll just go and load this data. I don't need to transform it. I'm going to connect to one more Excel workbook. This is called product. Now, this does not have a formatted table. This gives me a sheet. It does give me a suggested table, or it gives me a sheet. I could use this, which is perfect for me, or I can choose this as an opportunity to show you what is possible. You see the sheet? There's some additional stuff on top which I don't need. How do you handle data like this? I will click on transform data. Now, you see here, I have things which I don't need. I need only from product key onwards, this. So I'm going to delete the 1, 2, and 3. Remove top rows. I repeat, remove top rows. And this remove top rows, I will say 3 rows. So it says, okay, it's gone. I have what I need. Now I say use first row as headers. This promotes whatever I have to become the column headers. All right, so this is all I have. Sheet 1, I don't like that name. Let's change it to product. Close and apply. Now let's go back to model view and have a look. I have territory. And if I look at my sales data, I have a sales territory key and I have a sales territory key here. Let me confirm that they are indeed the same data. Sales territory key, I have numbers going from 1 to 10. And I have here territory, which has numbers 1 to 9. That's probably not ideal. Let me see if I can correct my table. This is my base table in Excel. I open this. Let me add a row and let's call this central. Okay. Let's give this some key. How about giving this to keep it simple? And let's make an array. So I have edited my base table. I close this. When I come back here, looking at this data, I can do a certain number of things. You see here, 3 dots. I can click on refresh data here. Or I can click on refresh here. So I'm going to go with this because I want to only refresh this one. So it now shows me 1 to 9. Oh, I missed 10, right? Let me go back and change that. So again, I click on the base file. I add 10. Let's call this export. Let's give this to someone completely. Okay, let's keep it simple. And right. Oops, don't need that. I come back here and I click on refresh data. Now it has refreshed the view. Now from sales territory key, I will connect to sales territory key. I have created a model which is 1:many on sales territory key. If I hover over this line, it shows me which are the items connected. I seem to have something else, product. Let's take product key. Do I have a product key? Yes. Let me check product key. Sales product key. Product key. I have a set of products here. 214. Let's look at my product and see if I'm missing anything. I'm missing some products. I have 606, but I don't have everything. Doesn't matter. I will stay with what data I do have for now. And let me connect the product key to the product key here. We're spending a lot of time just doing setup. And by now, some of you must be wondering, why can't I just do this in Excel? It's faster. Well, there are limitations to Excel. Oh, I've forgotten to save this file. Sales, CSV 2023. I will mark today's date 0620. Right. So I've saved the file. I have connected up what I needed to connect up. I'm now going to create a completely new table. Enter data. This is just a best practice. It's not necessary you do this. I'm going to call this key measures. Load. It's a blank table called key measures. Inside key measures is where I will create a bunch of measures. Now, what are measures? Let me first show you what I'm referring to. This measure I will call cost. And I will say this is the sum of in sales, you see sales, this is the table, and this is every column inside the table. Cost. What do I have which is pertaining to cost here? Total product cost. So sum of sales, total product cost. I have created now a measure called cost. I will add a new measure and I will call this quantity is equal to sum tab, which opens automatically the brackets. And I have to put the column name, which is a column name that I'm looking for. I'm looking in the sales table. I want quantity. So what do I have for, order quantity. Close brackets, done. Let me create one more measure called revenue. And this revenue is equal to sum of sales, which is my revenue. Sales amount, that's my revenue. These are measures. Measures are not like columns. They are not columns that get added. These are calculated on the fly in visualization. Let me show you now what this actually means. So I have here a few questions. Let me quickly address those. How do I remove a row in between? Well, removing rows is very easy. Depending on what you want to do, I can go into transform data and let's say I want to remove some product keys. So I have a product key which starts at 320. In the sales table, I want to remove a product key which is less than 320. So number filters less than 320. By default, anything which is less than is what is shown. However, my calculation, my logic needs to change. So I will clear this filter and I will change the filter to say greater than or equal to 320 because I want only values of product keys that are 320 or more. When I do this, applying a filter in Power Query ensures that that data does not even appear in Power BI where we are doing the reporting. So I say close and apply. Now I have another question, and that is if we share any report to customer, is it required to have Power BI at receiver's end? Well, yes and no. If you are sharing it as a Power BI file, they need Power BI to open this PBIX file. If you are sharing it as a dashboard, which is embedded into a web page, then they do not need Power BI. Even without Power BI, they can function. Now, I have a question on what are the limitations of Excel here. Well, Excel can't do so many things. I will show you very rapidly in a little bit what you can do here with the data that we have. By the way, I don't need this column one. It's blank anyway in key measures. I will delete it. Delete from model. Yes. Now, just think, I want to create a simple calculation, a quick calculation of what were the changes. I do have a question here, which is, I think, the second time, how to connect the Confluence page. Well, you can connect to SharePoint, you can connect to Confluence, but you need connectors available for that. Not all the connectors are directly available at the moment. In some cases, you can use an OData feed, you can use servers to connect directly there. For the rest, things are still being built into it. Now, you remember we spoke of using this date key. If I take the year from here, drag and drop it, it shows me 2006, 2007, 2008. I'm going to fold away the date key and I'm going to say, what is the cost? And straight away, this shows me this is how the cost has changed. I would also like to see revenue and quantity. Let me just bring in revenue. Okay, so cost has gone up, but revenue, the rise is sharper. Revenue has gone up much more than the cost, right? You can see the difference. This allows me to straight away, without doing anything major, see the data as I wish. Very simple, very fast, nothing big in this at the moment. Since our focus, I'm sorry that some of your questions I will not be taking today because these are not connected to exactly how to create a dashboard. Since your connection, it's more about how to connect to data. So with the cost and revenue by year, what if I could change this? You see, I have cost and revenue by year. Instead of year, let me click on this and change. Instead of year, I would like to bring in from product. I would like to see this by subcategory. This changes automatically, but it does allow me to force it back to say, I want to see a line chart. And in the line chart, I want to see subcategory as a legend. Or just like that, I see subcategory available to me like this. What if I were also looking at category? So from product, let me bring in category. Let me bring in the product name. I will move this up. So I have category, subcategory, and product name. That's a lot of products, right? You see this? I'm drilling up. So this is what my data looks like. I have category 1, 2, 3. And this category 1, 2, 3 is, why is it showing as 2, 3, and 1? Let's look at this. I have sort access descending by cost. How about I change this to category? So this will show me 3 to 1. I will make this ascending. So now I have category 1, category 2, category 3. When looking at category data like this, it doesn't make sense to use a line chart. So I will switch this to a bar chart. Okay, so I have cost and I have revenue. Let me keep it as this, right? So this is my cost, this is my revenue. I can see this for each category. Let's go into focus mode where it uses the full space. Now, I'm going to use a feature called drill down. Click to turn on drill down. Category 1, I'm interested in category 1. If I double click on that, it takes me down to the subcategory and product names. I can, of course, drill back up and see only subcategories, or drill up further and see the categories. So if I take category 2, this shows me everything under category 2. Allowing for playing around with this, this is how I have a drill down setup. If I wish to use this drill down, I can do so. Let me go back and try and make a slightly different chart. You see here, I'm going to go to the sales, to the product, and I know that this is a hierarchy. Clicking on category, which is the highest level, I say create a hierarchy. And this is called automatically category hierarchy. The next is subcategory. So I click on subcategory, right? Click on those three buttons, add to category hierarchy, and it will add it there. Similarly, product name, add to hierarchy, category hierarchy. You see, without any lookups in place, without doing anything else, though my original sales data does not have category information or subcategory information, nor even product name, because my original sales data only has a product key, nothing else. But even without that, I'm able to access, because I have modeled the tables, connecting the product key in sales with product key in product. I can view the data by a higher level item. So when you see this drill down, drill down is relatively simple to do when you have a hierarchy. At this point, I'm removing category, subcategory, product name, and I'm going to add now from product directly only category hierarchy. When I click on drill down, it will still function. And this is the last, this is the bottommost. So I don't need to do anything else. Because I've created a hierarchy, I drag and drop the hierarchy here, and this gives me a view. I'm going to do something slightly different now. You see, I want to see cost and revenue not only by category. I also want an option to see it by territory and manager, where I have a territory, I have a regional manager, and I have a manager. So I'm going to create for regional manager a hierarchy. And I will similarly add under regional manager, I have manager. I will add manager to the regional manager hierarchy. I will take the territory and also add it to the hierarchy, regional manager hierarchy. So you see this? If I wish to switch, instead of category hierarchy, I could say I'm interested in regional manager hierarchy. What does this do? When I drill down here, it takes me to subcategory, takes me to product. That product takes me to the next level regional manager, and so on and so forth. So let me remove this. What if I wanted to switch between these? I want the option of keeping this flexible.
Hello? Hi, sir, you're on mute, sir.
My apologies. All right. Let me show this to you again. I wish to have flexibility of what I want to show inside this. So I'm going to go to modeling, new parameter, fields. And in this, I will create something called category selection. I will add in all the fields that I want: category, subcategory, product name. And in territory, I will add in regional manager, manager, territory. Is there something that I can take from sales? That's all right. So this is what I have. Okay. Create. And I had already checked add slicer to this page. You see, this has created a completely new thing called category selection, category selection. Here, inside this, on the y-axis, I will only add category selection. Something went wrong, cancel. All right. What this does is it allows me to view whatever I please, however I wish to see this chart, just by using this category selection. To ensure that I don't end up selecting more than one, I will click on more options, slicer settings. I want this to be a drop down, and a selection, I want single select. I get this from here, more options. Add or remove visual elements, more options. So this is my category selection. So if I place this up here, this allows me to switch. I have one chart, but within this chart, I can see many views. I see a bunch of questions that have come in. Oh, sorry. This was from when I had muted myself. So what I have done here as a category selection, I can do something similar. I can change. Let me go back here. Do you remember the data that we have? Cost, quantity, revenue. What if I need this to change? I don't want it to be always cost and revenue. This also, I could create something completely. Let me remove cost and revenue. Okay. Let me go back to modeling, new parameter, fields. I will call this measure selection. Cost, quantity, revenue. Create. So this shows me cost, quantity, revenue. This one, I will change here, format. I want this as a tile because there are only 3 items in it. And I want single select. Let me keep multi-select. And select all option. Let me change this a little bit, play around with it. Okay. Now inside this, at the moment it is blank, right? X-axis is blank. In X-axis, I will select what I have just created, measure selection. Now, right now, I can see cost by product. You see product name, I can switch this to category. So this shows me total cost by category. I can see total quantity by category. Let me show the numbers because these numbers, if I wish to see, I select the visual. And inside this, I have a bunch of options. Let me add data labels. They're data labels, but I would like them to be bigger. Let's increase values, font size. Okay, there, that should do. So if you see, I can keep adding charts as I please, but in this manner, I have in one place a capability of selecting, holding down. So I click on revenue, I hold down the control key and I click on cost. So it shows me cost and revenue by category, which I can switch to regional manager. And straight away the values change and show me regional manager. This is something that is we can't even dream of in Excel. The user can directly use this without depending on us to see all the slicing and dicing. So I have a question on the transformation step for the invoke custom function. That is not something that I did explicitly. Power BI automatically creates a certain set of functions without us needing to do anything. When connecting to a folder, it created it automatically. So this is one major part where you have information which is different. I will show you a slightly different approach for a slightly different calculation. This is focused on a measure. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to go to transform data. I'm going to create a little pivot. So with sales, I will make a reference which becomes sales to. I will call this year total. Now in this year total, you see the source. Source is equal to sales, which is the same as this. So whatever the output of that is shown here. Now under transform, remember by default, we are under home. I click on transform. With this selected, I click on group by. I want to group by year and I want cost, which is sum of total product cost. Let me click on advanced. So I can add an aggregation, which I will call quantity, sum. I think it was called order quantity. Yes. Add aggregation revenue. And again, I want a sum of sales amount. This is creating now a little pivot for me. It removes everything else. It shows me this, just the totals, nothing else. Close and apply. I don't really need everything there. I'm going to show you why I have that year total. Uh, let's see whether it has something has automatically happened here in modeling. Oops, I do not want year total to be connected to anything else. So let me right click on this and delete relationships. Similarly, right click on this and delete the relationships. I want the year to be independent. Okay, just the way key measures, category selection, measure selection, year total, these are all completely independent. I do not need them connected as part of the data model. Now I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to add here from year total, year. What this does is it default creates a chart which is of type card. I will switch. I will say I want this to be a slicer. You see this with the filter icon? So I make it a slicer. When I make it a slicer, this is what it shows me. 2006 to 2008. I can change this to a single select. Again, format, slicer settings. I don't want between. I want it to be a tile. Single select. Very important. I need this to be a tile. Okay. So I have this here as a tile. Now I'm going to create a new measure, a completely new measure. What if there are multiple charts? Remember that as long as you have these elements like the measure selection, etc., all of these will apply to the multiple charts. For example, you see this year. If I select 2007 or 2008, nothing is changing here because it's not connected. Now I'm going to add a new measure. Please pay attention on this one. This is something totally different. I want to see the change year on year. I'm going to use a new, not new for only new for people who have worked with Excel. In Power BI, there's an option to define variables using small var. I will say current year is equal to, and I will calculate the, let's say, quantity. I will calculate the quantity, but I will filter. I will filter the date key, and in this, the year. I'm interested in the year in date key. Is equal to selected value of year total year. Please be patient. I know this must be a lot. Give it a moment. I'm adding one more variable, previous year. Okay. Oh, no need. Right now, I will say previous year, calculate. I can actually copy this entire set, except that the selected value that I have, I will say -1. So if I have 2008, current year will calculate the quantity for 2008. If I have 2007 selected, it will calculate for 2006. Previous year would be -1, right? Now I'm going to say change, and this is, I will use a divide function. I will first calculate current year minus previous year. Oh, I cannot use previous year because it is already used as a function. So I will call this current year -1. Current year -1, comma, and I want current year -1 because I want it as a calculation. So I want this to return change. I can keep this all small. It's easier. Let me make it small. Okay, now I'm dragging this change year on year and showing it here. It shows me by default a change year on year. This is 2006. 2008. Okay, now let me see why I'm not getting this. Let me check this change year on year. This has to be a format as a percentage. Format as a percentage, and let me take it as single decimal. Let me see my formula. What do I have? I have calculated the quantity where I have said it is the same as whatever is the selected value. So date key for the year. So I'm calculating the quantity and I'm filtering it based on the date key year. But the date key year should equal whatever is selected here. That's why I use selected value. And what do I have? I have calculate quantity, filter is right. Selected value is year minus 1. I will probably filter this year and remove 2006. Make this a basic filtering and have only 2007 and 8. Now, ideally, with 2008 selected, I ought to see, okay, what is the change? It is divide this by this. B minus A divide by A. So this is where I've run into a bit of a problem, which will probably take a little bit of, where you were calculating change, you didn't correct the variable name to small letters. Oh, you're right. That really ought not to matter here. Let's see. Is this the reason? No, that is not it. It's not the capital letters. Well, debugging DAX expressions is where I can now check what you see this variables. I have an option of first checking. Instead of change, let me see what happens if I get current year. Does it show me a value? It's showing me a value for current year. What about current year minus 1? Is this getting calculated as well? No, that's where I have an error. I have an error in selected value minus 1. Let me find out if this is where I have year in year total. Year is a whole number, so it's not a problem. Hmm. So here I can see current year minus 1. So current year minus 1 is a problem because it is a blank at the moment. This is what I need to fix. If I fix this, then it will work. Filter date key, okay. Selected value, year total minus 1. That's strange. Ideally, this should work. So this is where my problem is. I have just by changing what comes after return, I can identify where the issue, which formula has an issue. So my filter is correct. Year minus 1. Oh, let me check year date key. In date key, what do I have for year? Ah, that's where the problem lies. So if I go to the date key, what is my year? Oh, it's also a whole number. That shouldn't matter. It's set to not summarize. Well, that's a problem that I'll have to solve separately. But as an approach, this is something that will still work where I use variables. I create different calculations and then I create a variable which uses that calculation to return whatever I need. At this moment, I have understood that current year -1 has an issue. I will fix it eventually. For today, that's all I have. I see I'm really already a minute past. I hope this is something that is useful that you can use. Of course, don't worry about creating more charts. You can create as many charts as you wish. You can make copies of these, or you can create things from scratch by dragging and dropping and selecting whatever else you wish. So if you want to see uh, data, for example, by quarters, all quarters mixed, then you can just do that. You can select your cost by quarters and see what that gives you. So it's just entirely up to you to see how you're going to take your data and play around with it. So I leave you with this little session from today. I hope that this was useful. Best of luck with trying it out and playing it. So remember, the dashboard is nothing but a collection of charts. If you can put up more charts, then that becomes your dashboard. The key thing here is we have attempted to create in one single view as many of the views of the charts that you would require. I do believe that a copy of the recording of the session will be shared by SkillUpRight. I think that is a question that they will take.